Hi friends, so I'm Autumn, I'm 26 years old, and my husband and I have been trying to conceive for 20 months now. So um, I've decided to start a vlog to document our journey and just the day-to-day struggles that we go through as they come up, because I think it's important for this to be out there in the world for others who either are going through the same thing so that they can connect with someone, or just for those that aren't dealing with this so that they know what some of us are going through. So in this first episode, I'm just going to share my story because I haven't really talked in detail about it before. I put it out there on social media, but it's not something that's like everybody knows every detail of it. So if this is not interesting to you, like, I'm sorry, you don't need to watch, but if this is something you want to know more about, here's our story so far. So in January of 2018, my husband and I decided we wanted to start trying to conceive. So at that point, I stopped my birth control, and I had been on it for several years for painful, because I had excruciatingly painful periods, and I just needed something for pain management, and so I took birth control for several years before coming off of it. And so when I came off of it, I was in the mindset that I would get pregnant quickly, just because my family is very fertile besides my sister, which I'm sorry, I'll talk about that later, but hopefully she doesn't mind. But my family has always been like, I come from a very fertile family, and so I thought it would be very easy for me to conceive. So once 3 months passed, I convinced myself, like, okay, well, this is normal. I'm just coming off my birth control, so my hormones are out of whack, and it's taking time to get, back in my normal cycle, and my periods were still very light at that time, and so I figured I'd give it 6 months and I'd be pregnant. So by 6 months, my periods were coming regularly, and they were heavy, and they were painful, and back to my normal cycle, and I was not pregnant. And so I started to get a little discouraged at that point, but I thought, oh, it's only 6 months, so who knows? God's got a plan, and I'll be pregnant soon. By the time 9 months rolled around, I was starting to really get bitter every time somebody would post on social media that they're pregnant, or I would see people who had just gotten married, and at this point I had only been married for a little over a year, but I wanted a baby, so it was really hard to see all of these people getting pregnant and I was not, and people who were getting pregnant like on accident, and I'm like, I'm trying here, and it's been 9 months. And so at 9 months, I posted on Facebook, and I let people know that this was something that I was struggling with, and I put it out there for people who maybe could relate. And I got an overwhelming amount of people like reaching out to me with just encouraging words, but also people who were going through similar situations and just needed somebody to talk to. And I realized that this is something that needs to be talked about more. So I've been very open about it on social media, but not every little detail has been shared. So anyway, about a year and a month after starting to conceive, I had an appointment with my OBGYN for my annual pap smear. So this was in February of this year, 2019. And at this point, I mentioned to her that we had been trying to conceive for a year. And so her first instinct was to order some blood work and then have an ultrasound done. And so the blood work was just to make sure that I had all my immunities. And the blood work came back totally normal. So she told me. And the ultrasound needed to be done mid-cycle, and it was a little too late into the cycle, so she was not able to determine anything from the ultrasound. But I requested to have an HSG test done, because this is something that checks to see if your fallopian tubes are blocked. And this was something that my sister struggled with. So she tried for 2 years to get pregnant, and the issue that she ended up having was that her fallopian tubes were blocked, and she needed a procedure to get that unblocked, and then she was able to conceive. So I thought, it's possible that this was the issue I was dealing with. So I requested an HSG test. So in March of 2019, I had an HSG test, and I am really glad I did not look online before I had the test, because my sister told me that it was totally like quick and pain-free and not a big deal at all. But I went in and had a completely different experience. It was very quick, but it was the most painful experience that I've ever experienced in my life. Like, my periods have always been bad, but this was like cramping times 10. Like, it was horrible. I like almost passed out. Like, when it was done, I like had to like stay laying down, because getting up, like standing up, like I was dizzy, and it was a horrible experience for me. Like, I am so glad that it's over with. But the thing is that they didn't find anything wrong. So I felt kind of like I had gone through it for no reason. But what they had told me was that that a lot of people, when they get the HSG test, now basically, let me just describe this for people who don't know. What the HSG test is what it does is they inject dye into you, and then it like goes up your uterus and through your fallopian tubes, and it lights up on an x-ray so they can see like what your anatomy is shaped like, basically. And if it flows through your fallopian tubes, that means you have no blockage. But if it doesn't flow all the way through, then you have a blockage. So they told me that everything looked normal, but they did say that sometimes people who have a blockage, the HSG test will actually unblock it from the dye being pushed through. So I thought, well, maybe this is what happened with me. Maybe the reason it was so painful for me is because the dye actually unblocked it, and that's why it hurt so badly. And so I thought, okay, so they said it looks normal. I'll keep trying for the next few months, and hopefully I'll get pregnant. But no such luck. So in May of 2019, I finally decided I needed to see an infertility specialist. So I asked my husband to make an appointment, and he called, and they could not get us in until June. So he made an appointment in June, and it was June 24th, which is, unfortunately, when he made the appointment, he did not talk to me first, which is fine. But he scheduled it for the last day of my school year, and so I could not go in that day. So I kept asking him to reschedule it, and he never got around to it. So finally I called in June, and I asked to reschedule it, and they couldn't get us in until July. So July 17th, I finally had my first appointment with the infertility specialist. And basically, he just wanted more information from me, and he needed my blood work sent over, which was supposed to have been sent over, but it wasn't there. So I had my blood work sent over, and then what he told me, he needed two things from me. He needed my husband's like a sperm sample from my husband, and he needed if I got my period again, to call and have an ultrasound scheduled, because like I told you before, the ultrasound that I had back in February wasn't done at the right time, so nothing was able to be determined from that. So while I was on vacation for my anniversary in July, at the end of July, I got my period, and at the same time that I got my period, I got a phone call from the infertility clinic, and basically they told me that they got my blood work from my doctor faxed over, and that my rubella titer showed that I was not immune to rubella, and that I should not try to get pregnant that month, because if I get pregnant, it could be my child could be at risk. So to delay it for another month. And so when I was on the phone with them, I said, well, I have my period right now, should I have that ultrasound scheduled? And they said, no, not to worry about it until the next cycle. So here we are now. My husband's sperm analysis came back that he has no issues, so he looks fine, which I guess is a good thing. So far I look fine, he looks fine, but here we are, still not pregnant. So right now we're kind of just trying to get answers, and yeah, I'll be calling to make an appointment soon for my ultrasound. And the next episode, I'll update you on how that went. So thanks for watching. And if you have any questions or comments, just let me know. And if this helps you in any way, like, I hope that just hearing somebody else's story reassures some of you. So, all right, bye guys.